A smart woman is not a silent woman, but she is a selective woman. She is not hiding because she is afraid. She is hiding because she understands the value of what she carries. You don't expose treasure on the streets. You don't display sacred things in common places. A smart woman has come to know that not everything holy should be made public. Her silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. Her restraint is not repression, it is protection. Because when you know who you are, you stop allowing the world to define you by what it sees. You begin to live from what heaven has declared over you. There are three things a smart woman will always hide. First, she hides her pain. Not because she is pretending everything is fine, but because she knows pain has purpose. She doesn't broadcast her brokenness to gain sympathy. She brings it before the throne of God to gain strategy. She doesn't cry in the streets, she cries in prayer because she has learned that tears are sacred and not everyone can handle the depth of what she's carrying. Her pain becomes her oil, and oil must be pressed in private. Second, a smart woman hides her plans. She understands that vision is vulnerable in its early stages. Just like a seed, when exposed too early, it can be stolen or crushed. She knows timing is divine. There are people around her who clap for her, but secretly wait to sabotage what she's building. So she hides her next move not out of fear, but out of faith. Because she knows that when it is time, what God has planted in her will manifest with power, and no one will be able to stop it. She doesn't announce her process. She announces her fruit. Third, she hides the depth of her love. Not because she is incapable of feeling deeply, but because she understands that love without wisdom is dangerous. She doesn't give her heart to someone who hasn't proven they can carry it. Her love is not cheap. It is holy. It is not emotional impulse. It is a sacred offering. She doesn't fall in love with words. She watches character. Because she knows she is not just a woman, she is a favor carrier. And whoever finds her finds favor from the Lord. So she guards her love like a gate to royalty. A smart woman understands her identity. She is not moved by trends, by loneliness, or by pressure. She is grounded in purpose. She knows that God didn't create her just to be liked. He created her to lead, to birth, to transform. Her life is not a performance. It is a divine assignment. She walks with dignity, not because life has been easy, but because she has wrestled with God in secret and came out with revelation. She speaks with authority, not because she knows everything, but because she knows who she is in the kingdom. She doesn't beg for attention because she knows her value. She doesn't chase love because she is already loved by the Creator. She doesn't fear being alone because she knows her calling requires consecration. She doesn't need to prove her worth. She carries her worth. A smart woman doesn't hide out of shame. She hides out of strategy. She understands that hidden seasons are preparation seasons. And when God finally reveals her, it will be undeniable that she was shaped by His hand and anointed for such a time as this. A smart woman hides her pain not out of weakness, but to preserve her power, because she understands that exposing every wound gives people control they were never meant to have. She has come to understand that vulnerability is sacred and it must be protected, not paraded. Her silence is not an indication that she is untouched by life's hardships, but rather a sign that she is stewarding her soul with wisdom. Pain is not something she denies. It's something she brings before God, before she brings it before the world. She doesn't let her pain become public entertainment or emotional currency. She knows that there are those who will weaponize her wounds, not heal them. So she chooses when to speak, how much to reveal, and who is worthy of hearing the story behind her scars. A smart woman does not suppress her emotions, but she processes them in a place of safety. She doesn't bleed on people who never helped her bandage. Her heart may be bruised, but her spirit remains anchored because she has learned how to cry in the presence of God and rise with strength. The world tells her to vent, to let it all out, to share everything, but she knows that not every listener is a healer. Some are spectators, some are critics, some are snakes. So she shields her pain like a queen protects her crown because it is tied to her power, her oil, and her testimony. By hiding her pain, she is not pretending, she is positioning herself to heal deeply without interference. She is not cold, she is guarded. She is not numb, she is disciplined. She chooses to let her healing unfold in the secret place so that when she walks into the world, she does not look like what she has survived. She hides her next move because vision is sacred and not everyone deserves access to the blueprint of her destiny. A smart woman understands that premature exposure invites unnecessary warfare. She knows that the calling on her life is not for public consumption, but divine fulfillment. What God has whispered to her in the midnight hours is not for the ears of the unprepared or the unworthy. She guards her vision like a seed, not out of fear, but out of reverence for the process. She has learned that not every smiling face is supportive, and not every listener has pure intentions. Some wait for her to fail. Others want to steal what was never revealed to them in prayer. So she moves in silence, because revelation is for the obedient, not the curious. She understands that destiny demands discretion. She doesn't rush to announce her plans because she values divine timing more than public applause. She doesn't need to post every step, every meeting, or every decision because heaven doesn't operate through validation. It operates through alignment. She is not hiding because she's unsure. She is hiding because she's sure that what she's carrying is too heavy for careless hands. Her vision is not a show, it's a calling. And when you are called by God, you don't need to convince people. You prepare in the dark and let the results speak in the light. A smart woman has discernment. She doesn't overshare with people who have never sown into her soil. She recognizes that sacred things become common when exposed too soon. So she holds her vision close, knowing that when the appointed time comes, what God is building in her will be undeniable. Not shouted, but seen. Not explained, but evident. Because real destiny doesn't need an announcement, it needs obedience. She hides the full depth of her love because true love must be tested before it is fully revealed. Love without discernment invites manipulation. A smart woman understands that her love is powerful, and anything powerful must be protected. She does not withhold love out of bitterness or fear, but out of wisdom and spiritual maturity. She has learned that to give love too freely, too early, without understanding the soil it's being sown into, is to risk wasting something holy on ground that is not ready to receive it. Her love is not just emotion, it is covenant, sacrifice, patience, and faith. It is not something to be poured into hands that are not ready to hold it with care. She watches actions, not just words. She measures character, not just chemistry. She listens for the sound of purpose, not just passion. Because she knows that love without alignment leads to entanglement, and that the wrong relationship can become a distraction from destiny. She guards her heart, not because she is closed, but because she knows it is the wellspring of life. A smart woman doesn't fall in love with potential. She waits for fruit. She doesn't build with someone who is still guessing who they are while she's already rooted in who God called her to be. Her love is a reward, not a test. It is something to be earned, not assumed. She doesn't perform affection to gain approval, nor does she chase validation to feel seen. Her love is whole, healed, and holy, and she's willing to wait until the man before her has proven he is led by God, grounded in purpose, and capable of stewarding her heart with integrity. Until then, she hides the full depth of her love like a sacred treasure, reserved, intentional, and guarded by divine discernment. A woman of value does not live for validation. She hides her need for approval, knowing her worth is already defined by God, not man. She no longer seeks applause to confirm her identity because her confidence is rooted in who she is, not in who people say she is. Approval may be nice, but it is not necessary. She understands that human validation is unstable. People will celebrate you one day and criticize you the next. That's why she no longer allows external opinions to shape her internal truth. Her value is not up for negotiation. It was settled before she was born. God called her fearfully and wonderfully made, and that truth is enough. She does not need to prove herself by showing off her achievements, her beauty, or her status. She walks in quiet strength because she knows that what's real doesn't have to shout. She has learned that the moment she starts living for validation, she becomes a prisoner to people's praise. But she was not created to be controlled. She was created to be called, chosen, and consecrated. So she hides that silent craving to be liked, to be seen, to be accepted, because she has already been affirmed by the one who formed her in the womb. A woman of value chooses to let God define her pace, her place, and her identity. She understands that seeking man's approval often leads to compromise, but standing in God's truth leads to clarity and peace. She no longer fears being misunderstood because she knows that true purpose is often hidden before it's revealed. She does not measure her worth by comparison, nor does she chase platforms to feel significant. Her worth is established, her value is immovable. And because of that, she can serve, lead, and love from overflow, not from insecurity. She conceals her vulnerability until trust is earned, because emotional strength is not in revealing everything, but in mastering what to reveal and when. A smart woman understands that vulnerability is sacred and not everyone deserves access to the most tender parts of her soul. She has lived long enough to know that some people are not interested in understanding her. They're interested in using her openness as leverage. So she chooses to protect her softness, not because she is hardened, but because she has learned to be wise. She doesn't build intimacy on impulse. She builds it on discernment. Vulnerability without discernment is self-sabotage, and she refuses to hand her emotions to people who haven't proven they can carry them with care. She is not cold. She is calculated in love. She doesn't speak all her truth to every listener. She knows that the right people will earn her transparency, and the wrong ones will only exploit it. So she watches. She listens. She tests spirits. She prays before she pours. Her vulnerability is not weakness, it's wealth. It's not something to be flaunted, it's something to be stewarded. She has cried in the wrong arms before. She has been honest in the wrong places before. But now she has grown. She no longer confuses being open with being wise. True emotional strength is not found in constant exposure, it's found in self-control. The ability to know when to speak and when to be silent, when to share and when to observe, when to trust and when to wait. A woman who has mastered her emotions has mastered her life. And this woman, this smart woman, holds her vulnerability like a royal secret unlocked only by loyalty, character, and consistency. Not everyone is worthy of her truth because her truth is costly. She hides her scars until the environment is safe for healing. Wisdom teaches her not every place is a healing space. A smart woman understands that healing is sacred work, and sacred work requires sacred spaces. She does not expose her deepest wounds to anyone who cannot handle them with reverence. She's not ashamed of her scars. She's aware of their weight. Her pain carries stories, lessons, and battles that not everyone has the maturity to understand. So she keeps them close, protected, until she discerns that the soil is right, the atmosphere is gentle, and the presence is safe. She has learned that some environments do not nurture healing. They delay it. Some people do not offer comfort. They offer curiosity. They want to know what she's been through, not to help her grow, but to find a weakness to exploit. And because she has been through enough to know what false help looks like, she no longer confuses loud voices with loyal hearts. She no longer seeks comfort in crowds, but in covenant spaces, places where love is patient, truth is spoken with grace, and brokenness is not judged but honored. Her scars are not evidence of defeat. They are signs of survival. But survival is not the end of the journey. Healing is, and healing must be handled with intention. A smart woman understands timing. She understands that some healing happens in solitude, some in silence, and some in spiritual intimacy with God. She waits for the right voices, the right covering, and the right moments. She doesn't perform her healing for attention. She walks it out in wisdom. So she hides her scars, not to pretend they're not there, but to ensure they're healed in a place where restoration can truly take root. Because healing is not about being seen, it's about being whole. A smart woman hides her spiritual sensitivity because she knows divine perception is a treasure not to be exposed to foolish company. She understands that her ability to see beyond the surface, to discern motives, and to feel the unspoken is not a weakness, it is a divine gift. But even gifts must be guarded. She has learned through experience that not everyone is ready for the depth of spiritual insight she carries. Some will mock what they don't understand. Others will misuse what they do. So she keeps her discernment cloaked in stillness, revealing it only where wisdom confirms safety. She doesn't rush to explain her spiritual dreams, her visions, or the divine impressions she receives, not because she doubts them, but because she reveres them. She knows that what is sacred can be ridiculed in the wrong room. She doesn't cast pearls before swine because she knows the cost of revelation. Her spirit is sensitive to God's whisper, and with that comes responsibility. She recognizes that spiritual sensitivity is not about being emotional. It's about being in tune with the Holy Spirit. And with that tune comes clarity, warning, and purpose. She listens when others talk. She watches what others miss. She picks up atmospheres others walk blindly through. But she doesn't always speak on it. She discerns and then she waits. Because revelation without direction leads to confusion, and she is not moved by impulse, she is moved by instruction. A smart woman carries her spiritual depth with quiet authority. She is not loud, but she is clear. She is not flashy, but she is grounded. Her connection with God is not a display. It is a lifeline. And because of that, she protects it from mockery, from misuse, and from noise. She hides her spiritual sensitivity like a prophet hides in the wilderness, knowing the world isn't always ready for what heaven has placed within her. So hear me clearly. A smart woman is not hiding out of fear, but out of wisdom. She is not silent because she lacks something to say, but because she understands the weight of what she carries. Her hidden places are not signs of weakness. They are evidence of divine stewardship. In a world obsessed with exposure and performance, she chooses privacy, discernment, and depth. She knows that what is hidden in God is always protected by God. She hides her pain, not to deny it, but to heal without interruption. She hides her next move, not to deceive, but to walk in divine strategy. She hides the fullness of her love, not to withhold, but to guard what is holy. She hides her need for validation because she has already been approved by the one who matters. She hides her scars until healing is safe. She hides her sensitivity because she walks with revelation too deep for shallow minds. This woman is not playing small. She is growing strong. And one day, what she has built in silence will speak louder than anything she ever had to announce. Let them underestimate her. Let them misread her quietness. Because when the time is right, the same woman who hid her seed will show up carrying a harvest. And she will walk, not in noise, but in undeniable power. Hidden for a season, revealed in purpose. That's the mark of a truly wise woman. That's the legacy of a daughter who knows who she is.